Good afternoon. I'm continuing my series on UFOs and aliens. And today I want to take a historical purview of UFOs and aliens, the sightings of UFOs and aliens. By definition, the Air Force Regulation 200 to 202, issued in 1953 and 1954, have defined an unidentified flying object, UFO, as any airborne object which by performance, aerodynamic characteristics, or unusual features does not conform to any presently known aircraft or missile type, or which cannot be possibly identified as a familiar object. That's the way the Air Force Regulation 200 to 202 defines what we now call UFOs, unidentified flying objects, which the same military later on defined as unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs. So UAPs and UFOs they refer to the same phenomena. Objects flying in the sky that cannot be identified as being humanly created. Objects flying in the sky that humans do not know what they are. That's what we call UFOs or UAPs. Now, aliens, on the other hand, are beings that are humanoid, or they look like human beings, even though they don't belong to the human race, that have been said to fly or to be in those aircrafts that are called UFOs. There are certain beings that fly in them, and that occupy those aircrafts. That's those non-human aircrafts. And those people, or those beings, even though they have certain features that look like human, they are not human. Mostly from all the pictures that you've seen, drawn by people who have actually met them, and the reports that you've received from most people who have had experience with them, these beings are smaller in stature than human beings. Their bodies sometimes glow, they are colored, sometimes green. There's one instance where a military officer described the UFOs he saw as white like paper. All right, so these beings that occupy the UFOs are the ones we call aliens. Aliens because they are alien to this world. They are sometimes also known as extraterrestrial. It means they are extra Earth. They don't belong to the Earth. All right, so that's the definition of UFOs and aliens. Now, these sightings and encounters with these airships, strange airships in the air, were even as early as the 16th century. But the frequency increased as the years went by, and I'll take time to go through a few of them. But ever since human beings began to observe these aircrafts, strange aircrafts, non-human aircrafts, and aliens, the science community and military personnel, governments of the world have often dismissed them, try to explained them away. Some scientists have, said that no, they're not worthy of even scientific inquiry. But not today. Today the story is very different. These phenomena have become so important that all governments of the world have studied them and released their classified information about them. Some explanations that people gave is that, they are aircrafts or balloons. Some said they are noctilucent clouds, nacreous clouds, astronomical objects such as, meteors and meteorites, or bright planets. Some people just said they are hoaxes. However, up to date, between 5 to 20% of these sightings that military personnel, governments, research people have tried to research and explain away, 5 to 20% have still not been explained. They have still not been explained. They cannot explain who these aliens are and what the machines are made of, how they are made, and where they come from. Right. So let us look at some historical facts about these UFOs and aliens. Now, on April 14th, 1561, residents of Nuremberg in Germany described the appearance of a large black triangular object. According to witnesses, there were also hundreds of sphere, cylindrical and other odd-shaped objects that were moving erratically across the sky. Right? That's in 1561. The people in Nuremberg in Germany saw this huge triangular object in the sky, moving. Sometimes it moved at such terrific speed. Other times it could suspend itself in the air, like no aeroplane can do. No airplane can stop in mid-air. These objects were able to stop, just hang there. That's one of the reasons that the military research people and scientists have concluded that these cannot be human machines. On January 25th, 1878, the Denison Daily News had reported seeing a large, dark, circular object resembling a balloon flying at a wonderful speed, seen by one guy, Martin. And this is the report that man gave to the newspaper, Martin. And according to him, the object appeared to be about the size of a saucer. That's the first time they used the word saucer. That's why they call them flying saucers. At first they were called flying saucers, then later on they were named UFOs, and then now they are called UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. All right. So on January 25th, 1878, this guy Martin reported, and it was recorded in a local newspaper, that he saw this object, bright objects, resembling a balloon, but flying at a wonderful speed, and it's like a saucer. A saucer is like a plate with another plate covering it. That's how most of these things seen at that time looked like. Now, in April 1897, thousands of people reported seeing airships in various parts of the United States. Many of these witnesses were ready to sign affidavits. They actually signed affidavits to say, yes, what we're saying is true. We saw them. And they described these objects flying in the air that were not aeroplanes, executing certain maneuvers that are impossible for human aeroplanes, human-made or man-made objects to execute in the air. Now, that's what we call USS Supply Crew sightings. On February 28, 1904, there was a sighting by 3 crew members of the USS Supply ship, USS Supply Crew, 300 miles west of San Francisco. The one of the crew members, Lieutenant Frank Schofield, he later became the commander-in-chief of the Pacific Battle Fleet. He recorded in writing that there were 3 objects that looked like eggs, and they were flying in echelon, the way that sometimes military, Air Force people fly their planes during independence celebrations or special celebrations. You see the Air Force flying their planes in echelon. They are flying, different, space from one another, some in front, some by the side, some behind, but they're going at the same speed, in the same shape. That's what we call echelon. And they saw these egg-like objects. They were like eggs, flying in echelon, bright red, and they were flying in echelon. And their formations were such that they were constant in their speed and in the echelon formation. They didn't lose. They didn't come apart, just like the Air Force people who fly in echelon. They appeared from outside, from beyond the clouds, entered, the Earth's space. They entered below the clouds, they came towards the Earth, and then suddenly they flew up again, in right, 80 degrees or 90 degrees, straight into the clouds and beyond the clouds again, and they said the largest size of these objects were like 6 suns, the sun, 6 of them put together. That's how they looked. Now, these phenomena, as different people observed them and reported, and the reports are not just in one country, as we'll see, all the countries, all the advanced countries, of course, excluding Africa. Africa, perhaps because we do not have the equipments, the apparatus to observe the sky. We don't have the telescopes to observe the sky. And so mostly what Africans see are ordinary aeroplanes, or sometimes we see what we describe as shooting stars, bright objects like a star shooting and fading off. We don't know what they are. We just call them shooting stars. And mostly what Africans see are witches flying in the sky. But if you look at all the other countries in South Africa, South America, North America, that's US and Canada, and Europe, all the European nations, and Russia and China have all reported sightings of UFOs. And this is not just by ordinary people, sometimes by military people, military pilots, and civilian pilots who came into close proximity with these objects. There was a pilot who was forced to land his plane because he was being actually bullied by these objects. They were crisscrossing in front of him, and he feared he would crash into them. He had to land. They actually forced him to land. So these are some important historical facts about the UFOs or UAPs. In January 1926, a pilot reported 6 flying, manhole covers. They're like manhole covers between Wichita, Kansas, and Colorado Springs, Colorado. In late September 1926, an aircraft pilot over Nevada in the US again said he had been forced to land by a huge wingless, craft, a wingless thing flying in the air, change in direction from south to southwest. And this pilot was forced to land his plane. This is the pilot I was talking about a few minutes ago. He had to land his plane because these objects with their occupants were actually molesting him. They literally wanted to stop him. So he had to land his plane. This is a military pilot, On August 5th, 1926, while traveling in the Humboldt mountains of Tibet's Kokono region, the Russian explorer Nicholas Moerich and his team reported seeing a big, shining, reflecting objects like the sun. It was like a huge oval object moving at great speed, crossing the camp where they were doing their exploration, and then changing direction from south to southwest. These are all reports of ships, space ships, space vehicles that are not human. They were not created by human beings. Human beings have no technology to create such spaceships. They've been seen all over the sky since the 16th century, up to date. In 1946, more than 2,000 reports were collected, primarily by the Swedish military. Reports of unidentified area objects over the Scandinavian, nations, along with isolated reports from France, Portugal, Italy, and Greece. The objects were referred to as Russian hail and later as ghost rockets. At that time, they thought it was the Russians. When these things occur, at first, the Americans were suspecting the Russians that maybe the Russians could have created some advanced machines that the United States didn't have. Meanwhile, the Russians who were observing them were also suspecting the US, that it could be the US that had created such advanced machines that Russia didn't have. Sometimes they both suspected the Chinese. But today, all of them have come to agree that neither the US, China, Russia, or any European country has the capacity to create such machines. And no human could ever fly in such a machine because the maneuvers they operate, they perform in the sky are such that if there's a human being, if there were a human being in them, the human being would just evaporate. You will just, you will die. You know, a human being cannot be in a machine that, in the air, that will zigzag at lightning speed. No, you will die. Or fly, 180 degrees up. A machine that can bump out of the sea and go straight up at lightning speed. No human being will survive in such a machine. Right. Now, in 1948, top secret documents from Sweden, these documents were, they were Swedish documents from Swedish authorities that were leaked. And in these documents, the Swedish people, military, were advising, the USAF, that's Europeans, United States Air Force, and in Europe, the Scandinavian, the Swedish authorities were advising or telling the United States Air Force in Europe that some of the investigations of the investigators believe that these crafts that they've been seeing in the air, referred to as, the ghost rockets or the Russian Hail, were extraterrestrial. They were extraterrestrial. It means that they didn't belong to the earth. And these are military people in secret documents advising the United States Air Force in Europe that the sightings and this object that have been seen in the sky, some of them were not human. They were extraterrestrial. Right. So we are talking about authoritative sources, governments, military people, civilian pilots who reported to the tower, who reported, spontaneously what they were saying to the tower, and who later on actually wrote down, were asked to write what they saw. And these testimonies have been documented in all these countries over the years. The Roswell US UFO incident, Roswell, those who do research about UFOs know this term very well, Roswell. That was in 1947. It involved a New Mexico resident, a local law enforcement officer, and a U.S. military officer. The alleged actually collected, debris, remains of a UFO that had crashed. One of these machines crashed, and the law enforcement officers actually went there to collect evidence of the debris, the remains of this aircraft. When you go on the internet, you can Google Area 51 and Area 52 in the US. There are two places called Area 51 and Area 52. A lot of speculation is going on as to what happens there. But what we know is that even the President of the United States cannot just get up and go there. He has to go there with escorts, and he can only go as far as he's allowed. There are certain parts that he cannot go, where he cannot go. And a lot of rumors are going on, especially concerning Area 52, that crashed UFO machines, have been, parts have been taken there. And even that there's one alien, one of the occupants survived and is being kept in Area 52 to help create, to kind of reverse engineer the aircraft. Actually, the truth is Area 52 is a secret place where the United States creates their machines, whether they are weapons or aeroplanes, and that's where they do the experiments, that's where they try them, that's where they create them. That is fact. But as to these UFO stories, they are normally dismissed as rubbish. But you see, I've listened to the testimony of two military people who confessed on their deathbed they couldn't die with that information. They couldn't take it away. They said it was too important for them to die with. They had kept this information for years. You cannot divulge such information because it's high secret. If you dared, you could be just, removed. And even anyone who worked in such a secret place was followed. They watched you. And if ever you attempt to divulge this information, if you don't take time, that will be your end. But these people on their deathbed, they knew that they were going to die anyway. So they invited people who had been doing research on UFOs and told them the whole story. One of them said he had actually worked with an alien. He described them and described how the people work with them in Area 52. Are these true? Well, we don't know. But these are testimonies of military personnel who work there, who claim to have actually met with them. In 1965, in the Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, Kecksburg in Pennsylvania, the residents reported seeing a bell-shaped object that crashed in the area. A bell shaped like a bell. And it crashed in the area called Kecksburg in Pennsylvania in the United States. According to reports, police officers, and military officers were sent to investigate. These are facts written, and anyone who wants to research can go. There's a lot of material on the internet, okay? And there's a lot of classified information that has been released by most governments in Europe and now the US also. Then we have what we call the Phoenix Lights. Phoenix Lights. In 13th March 1997, people in Phoenix, Arizona saw a lot of lights in the sky. Flying. I mean, these lights were actually objects that were emitting light, flying all over the sky. In 2006, we have the O'Hare International Airport UFO sightings right at the airport. It was open. Everybody saw them. They saw a UFO at the airport. It's scary. Really scary. And you realize that most of these sightings of late have been where nuclear power is. That's where nuclear weapons are. They have been sighted mostly where nuclear weapons are. And recently in the US, it was reported that one of these UFOs hung over a nuclear weapon site and the weapons became dysfunctional. It means that they could demobilize whatever nuclear capacity humans have. Again, in Canada, the Department of National Defense has dealt with reports, sightings, and investigations of UFOs, across the whole country. Early Canadian studies included projects Magnet, that's in 1950 to 1954, and projects Second Story, STORE, 1952 to 1954, supported by the Defense Research Board. It means that the Canadian government actually took the pain to research, to invest money in researching. They cannot research in something that doesn't exist. They cannot research in speculation. If the governments of the world are researching into this UFO thing, then it means there must be something there. If there's nothing there, they will not be spending money. All the nations of the world will not be spending money researching. In France, March 2007, the French space agency CNES published and archived UFO sightings and other phenomena online. They published it online. About 22% of 6,000 cases studied by the French government remain unexplained. They still can't explain them. Like human beings, and especially governments, they will want to explain them away. They will want to wish that, they didn't exist. They want to wish that, these are just, somebody just created them. They were created by Russia. They were created by the US. But, of course, some of the flying objects, like we have many things flying in the air. People fly balloons. People flying their own aircraft. A lot of things are going on. But 22% have still not been explained. They are inexplicable. The official opinion of these three bodies that did the research, I'll just say them, JEPA, SEPRA, and JEPAN. These are groups. In France, they will call them different ways. But these are institutions that were researching to UFOs. The official opinion of these people said that, is that they can neither prove nor disprove the existence of extraterrestrial beings. They cannot say for sure that there are no extraterrestrial beings. Neither can they say, they exist. These are scientific bodies. So the primary objective was to do a scientific research. And, scientific research will not come with speculation. You cannot come and say, yes, there are extraterrestrial bodies. You can't prove it. But their research, even though these are scientific groups, they said they could neither, confirm or, dismiss the hypothesis that there are extraterrestrial ships, airships, aeroplanes, and humans, or beings, extraterrestrial beings that we call aliens. What they said was that it's possible that some fractions of the very strange sightings, about 22% of the inexplicable cases, might be due to distant and advanced civilizations. Now, these are scientific bodies. They say some of these 22% unexplained cases may be due to some distant and advanced civilizations. Because for all purposes, they are far, far more advanced than humans. The aircraft they bring cannot be manufactured by human beings. We don't have the means, we don't have the knowledge. We are not there yet, if ever we'll get there. Right? And these are scientific bodies coming out and making these claims. In Italy, there was a close encounter in September 1978 in Torretta do Siena, in the province of Siena. A young motorist saw in front of him a bright object, and then two beings of small stature. As I said at the beginning, they are smaller than human beings, sometimes with huge heads, with eyes, with fixed at different angles than human beings. These small beings were in suits, they wore suits and helmets, and they approached him. They approached his car. He was petrified. He was scared to death. When they came close, they stood there, looked at his car, watched his car, and then went back into their UFOs and took off, flew up in a terrific lightning speed. This is a real encounter. A motorist, a young guy who had this encounter in Italy. Now, there have been increased sightings, as I've said, since the 16th century, when people actually began to take note of these sightings. These sightings have increased. The mutual UFO network, we call it MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, in the United States, reports that by 2011, UFO sightings had increased by 67%. The reportings of UFO sightings to their office. And this is, Mutual UFO Network. It's a network and like a non-governmental organization that is doing research into the whole phenomena of UFOs. They said, especially the 3 years leading to 2011, there was 67% increase in the reports, because anytime people saw these phenomena, they came and reported to them. Whether they encountered the aliens or whether they saw the aircraft, people came and reported to them. They wrote, over the past year, we've been averaging 500 sightings a month, compared to about 300 3 years ago. That's in 2011. So before 2011, they had been receiving reports of about 300 sightings of UFOs. But by 2011, the number of sightings had increased to 500. You see, friends, there are some of us, like I said, in Africa, who are totally ignorant. We don't even pay attention. We're not paying attention. But you need to pay attention. You need to know. And you need to be able to explain to somebody, because it's all over the world. All over the world. Even the United States government, that kept saying, no, nothing is there. There's nothing, it's a hoax. When, Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Sweden, Spain, Russia. When all these countries had released their classified documents concerning their encounters with UFOs, United States refused. But in 2013, and 2014, people who were really now completely satisfied that the research they had done was enough to merit government attention, really brought pressure to bear on the government, on the Senate. And the result is there. The Senate, called the Pentagon and said, look, these things are going on for a long time. You keep saying no, no, no. You have to come and report to us. The Pentagon finally had to come out. 2014, Australia, last year, 2022, and this year, 2023, to say, yes, there are a lot of objects up there. We've been able to explain a lot of them, but between 5 to 20% are inexplicable. We cannot explain them. We don't know where they come from. We don't know what they are. We know they are aircraft flying in the air, operating maneuvers that are impossible for human aircrafts, but we don't know where they come from. We don't know what materials they are made of, and we don't know who are occupying those aircrafts. I'm talking about the Pentagon. And you see, those of us living in the US, almost every week now, CNN reports about sightings. Something that used to be, dismissed a few years ago. And I've been doing research on UFOs since 10 years. I've been researching into UFOs. Because for me, from a point of anthropological point of view, studying the end times is very important for me. I would actually discuss what the Bible says about UFOs and aliens in my next video. But today, I just want to give you a historical preview so that you will know that it's a fact, because most people, as I've said, do not know anything about UFOs. Those who know about UFOs maybe have seen them in movies and dismiss them as science fiction. No, they are not science fiction. They are real. In our day, all the governments of the world, all the advanced governments who have researched these phenomena over many years have come to accept that they are real. And the governments of the world are scared. Why are they scared? It is true that distant civilizations, they are more advanced than humans. And they are coming into our airspace. They are, interacting with humans. They are crisscrossing the sky. Who knows if they'll crash into an aeroplane, if they'll crash into some missile or something. Who knows if they'll land one day on Earth? Who knows whether they'll wage war against us? Where are they coming from? Who are they? What do they want from us? These are the questions that the nations, the advanced governments that claim to be powerful, have powerful weapons and have mighty armies, they are all scared to death. Because it's no longer a secret. You can no longer dismiss it. There's something out there that we can't understand. There's something out there that the scientists can't understand. There's something out there that the military people can't understand. It's real. UFOs and aliens are real. Now, so there are claims by military personnel. And when I talk about military personnel, these are claims that are very credible because they're not just ordinary people. In 2007, former Arizona government, governor, the Arizona governor, 5 Symington came forward and belatedly claimed that he had seen a massive, delta-shaped craft silently navigating over, Skull Peak, a mountain range in Phoenix, Arizona. This is a former Arizona government official who didn't say it at first. Maybe he was afraid. In advanced countries, you say such a thing, you are dismissed as being superstitious. You are dismissed as being, you'll not be taken serious. So many people fear. So these people, Army officers, United States Air Force officers, actually came to, confess, came to hold meetings in the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. And they actually they paid former senators to just come and listen to them. They paid former senators of the United States to come to listen to them, because they knew that what they were saying was so true, right? They were satisfied that, and they were ready to swear, to go before the Senate and give a report, and to give a report under oath about their research and their findings. In May 2001, a press conference was held by the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., by an organized group called the Disclosure Project, featuring 20 persons, including retired Air Force and Federal Aviation Administration people, intelligence officers, and air traffic controllers. 20 of these people came together. They all gave a brief account of what they knew or what they had witnessed, and stated that they would be willing to testify before the U.S. Senate. From April 29th to May 3rd, 2013, the Paradigm Research Group held the citizens' hearing on disclosure at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. The group paid several former U.S. senators $20,000 each to hear testimonies from them. They paid them to come and, please, just come and listen to us. Come and listen to what we have to say. They paid each former senator, several of them, $20,000. Please, the information we have is so important that you have to come and listen to us. Of course, they come and listen to them. And they gave them information, concrete information, concerning their experience, their research experience on UFOs and aliens. Apollo, we see Apollo 11, Apollo 12, Apollo 13, Apollo 14. Apollo 14 astronaut, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, that's how he's called. He claimed that he knew of senior government employees who had been involved in a close encounter with aliens, with UFOs. So he had no doubt that aliens have visited the earth. He knew high government officials, senior officials, that told him that they had had close encounter with aliens. So the astronaut, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, said he's not surprised that the research has come to prove that actually these things exist, these phenomena exist. Now I'm going to end with abductions. Not just that there are aircraft in the sky that are not human, that they are extraterrestrial. They don't belong to the human race. They belong to other humanoids or other beings that look like human, but they are not human, and who are not on Earth. They are in other parts of space, maybe on some planets nobody knows. But that there are people, these aircrafts are occupied by some beings, like humanoids. The aircrafts, they come in aircrafts. They come to our space in certain aircrafts. And not only that, but that some of these beings, aliens that we call aliens, have abducted human beings. They've kidnapped human beings, taken them aboard their UFOs, their ships, and performed operations on them. Excuse me. Some of the most prevalent stories are the Betty and Barney Hill abduction story in 1961. This was one of the first reported cases of abduction, 1961. They were abducted on board, a UFO. They came back, they were brought back. They performed some experiments on them, brought them back. And these people reported, testified. Doctors took them and observed them. And the observations show that there were lacerations on their bodies. And also there were signs of radiation on them. Then we have the Travis Walton case in 1975. In fact, the movie that is titled Fire in the Sky is based on this story. It's based on the Travis Walton abduction case of 1975. Even though this movie has been exaggerated, embellished, but it's based on a true story. So you see, when you see UFO stories, well, some of them were just created, but some of the stories are true. UFOs and aliens are really true stories. So the Travis Walton case, he was abducted, he was kidnapped and taken to the sky, taken on board one of these aircrafts. Again, experiments were performed on him and he was brought back. What people say is that these aliens are really trying to study human beings. Who are we? What are we made of? It's like we beat their imagination. They are not like us. And the reports from the military people who claim to have worked with them, have seen them, is that they are surprised at some of our attributes, some things that we can do, some things that some capacities that our bodies are equipped with. Even though, of course, their bodies also have different capacities, So they want to discover who are these. They've suddenly discovered us on Earth, and they are coming and they are performing operations. They are looking at our weapon sites. They are looking at aeroplanes. They are looking at the civilization on Earth. And what many people say is that they just want to know who we are. They don't mean harm. They don't mean to come and fight us as yet, because nobody knows. Nobody knows. But they are curious about human beings. Right? So, UFOs and aliens are real. They have abducted, aliens have abducted human beings, and the reports are there for everyone to see. Now, the best abduction case, and also the most controversial one, is a case in 1978. One Pierre Fortunato Zanfretta was said to have been kidnapped on the night of 6th or 7th of December. 6th and 7th, on 2 nights, 6th and 7th of December, while he was performing his job as, a Mazzano, that's in Italy, in the municipality of Torreglia, in the province of Genoa in Italy. He was working, and then suddenly they came and took him away. He was kidnapped. The 6th and 7th, of December, 1978. They took him away. Now, there are 52 testimonies on this case from other people, other colleagues, 52 testimonies about this particular case. It means the case is true. It's not fiction. It's not made up. 52 different testimonies about this case. It was an event, a real event that shocked the area, that shocked the municipality. So you see, historically, there have been sightings of UFOs and aliens. Actually, long before the 16th century, when human beings actually began to open their eyes to see them, that's the modern world. The Bible has said a lot, and I'll come to that. I'll come to what the Bible says about UFOs. But other nations, other historical nations, such as India, have recorded encounters with UFOs long time, many centuries before Christ, documented, in the Sanskrit, in their writing, documented the sightings of UFOs, even drawn them, sometimes on stone, sometimes on other objects, drawn these UFOs. In South America, in Peru, in North America, in Canada, in Europe, these are phenomena that are now very common and very prevalent. In the last year, in the United States alone, 6,000 sightings of UFOs have been recorded. In the United States alone, in 1 year, 6,000 sightings of UFOs. Just go to CNN and type UFO. You get all the reports of UFOs reported by CNN. And again, if you want to do research, you can simply do it. So what I'm offering you today is just a historical purview for you to know that these are real phenomena, things that are going on in the air. You cannot dismiss them. The US government attempted to dismiss that. Today they can't, because the governments of the world are scared. sometimes the government will classify documents, they don't want to scare their population. The governments, the leaders of the nations, they don't want to tell people anything that is scary so that they'll get scared and, and their lifestyles may change or some things may happen. So they keep some things secret. But not anymore with UFOs and aliens. Not anymore. All the advanced nations have come out and stated that these are real. Extraterrestrial aircrafts and beings that don't come from our planet. They come from outer space. They come from somewhere else that we do not know. They have technology that is far beyond what we can imagine. And they have been coming to our airspace more frequently of late. These are realities. So if you are someone who is still there and you are totally unconcerned, hey, you better watch out. You better watch out. Jesus Christ said something. He said, watch and pray. Watch and pray. Many Christians have turned the watch into watch night, where we go to all-night prayer meetings, everyday prayer meetings, watch night, all night, and we shout and shout and shout until daybreak. No, that's not what Jesus Christ means by watch and pray. Watch means be informed, look out. And I'll tackle this specific, note in my next video when I'm talking about what the Bible says about UFOs. It will surprise you what the Bible says about UFOs. Many pastors dismiss the whole event. They say, oh no, the people are just deceiving us. It doesn't exist. Because they don't want to research. Many men and women of God are too lazy to research. All that they do is to, all that they know to do is to build their churches and their denominations to increase the numbers of their churches, because that benefits them materially. So whatever they will do for their denominations to grow, they will do. But information that is very important. Because, you see, when your church member comes and says, Pastor, I heard in the, I watched the news in CNN, and they're talking about UFOs. What's a UFO? Is it true? A pastor should be able to inform, educate your members. I know many pastors don't have the education to the level that they can research. Okay? Those who have do not care to do that. That's not their priority. But those of us who God has equipped with the know-how, the skills, research skills, and the ability to delve deep, and the desire to acquire the materials, to spend money and time researching, we feel it an obligation to do the research and bring to you so that you will be informed. Because the Bible says, watch and pray. Watch and pray means that you should be informed about world events. You should be informed about the signs of our times. The signs of our times. Jesus Christ said, at the end, before he comes, there'll be signs in the sky. There'll be signs in the sea. And he actually said, frightening signs in the sky. I will leave it there. Join me in my next video when I treat, what the Bible says about UFOs and aliens. My friend, thank you for watching. If you are interested, really, if you love this information, I want you to subscribe to this channel and pass it on to a friend. I'm going to come your way with very, very important biblical teaching on the subject of aliens and UFOs. You can't afford to miss it. Thank you. God bless you. Ciao. Hi, welcome friends to this series on UFOs and aliens. There are a lot of things going on in our world, in our universe that we do not understand. And there are a lot of speculation and sometimes superstitious beliefs and also conspiracy theories. So that it's all mingled up, and sometimes we find it difficult to ascertain the truths or the realities of these things. Some of those things are what we call the UFOs and aliens. UFOs and aliens, or UAPs and aliens, or extraterrestrial beings. So what are UFOs and aliens? Now, the term UFO just means unidentified flying objects. Unidentified flying objects. The military, actually the Pentagon, renamed them unidentified alien phenomena, UAPs. Unidentified area phenomena. Now, on the other hand, we have what we call aliens or extraterrestrial beings, all right? So the unidentified aerial phenomena, or UFOs, unidentified flying objects, refers to objects. They are ships like vehicles, machines that have been observed flying in the air at speeds and with certain maneuvers that are impossible for humans to create. All right, so these machines have been observed flying in the air. They take all kind of forms. Sometimes they're like round, like egg form. Sometimes they are triangular, sometimes they are cylindrical, but they are all over there, observed by telescopes, sometimes by pilots and military and civilian pilots flying their aeroplanes in the air, and they baffle the intelligence of human beings because they do some maneuvers in the air that human aircrafts cannot perform. All right, so those are the UAPs or UFOs. These are machines. On the other hand, aliens, what we call aliens, are the beings, certain creatures, certain beings that look like humans who occupy those machines. These are the ones we call aliens or extraterrestrial. Extraterrestrial simply means that they don't belong to the earth. And the same term, alien, it means they are alien to our earth. All right, so UFOs and aliens refer to beings. Okay, they are, let me say, creatures. For those of us who believe in creation, they are creatures that look like human beings. And for all the reports that you've received and the photographs and the images that you've received, they are far more shorter, or they look a lot more smaller than human beings. But on the other hand, they have far more wisdom, far more technological development than human beings. Okay, so that's what is called the UFOs or aliens. But are these things real? Are UFOs real? UAPs, are they real? Aliens and extraterrestrial beings, are they actually real? First of all, let's look at certain historical facts. Since the 1940s, up to date, civilians, military people in the United States, in Europe, in Russia, in Canada, in South America, and many parts of the world have been observing ships or aircrafts, machines flying in the air, in the sky, which they have not been able to identify. At first, the Russians thought it was the Americans. The Americans thought it was either the Russians or the Chinese. But of late, most governments have come to realize, to accept that these are not human machines. The technology on Earth is not up to the standard of the aircrafts that the aliens use and which they bring to our airspace, and which our military pilots, civilian pilots, and military people observing with telescopes, as well as millions of ordinary people on Earth have seen since the 1940s. Now, some of these ships have been proven to be carrying aliens, carrying living beings who look like human beings, but they are far smaller than human beings. Their shapes are not, different from the shapes of human beings. Sometimes they have a very big head, big eyes, with different angles than those of human beings. Sometimes they are seen in certain scientific suits and other things. And some of these aircrafts have been found to be occupied by such aliens, such beings. I don't want to call them human, because they are not human. They are humanoids. That is, they look like human beings, but they are not human. But what everybody agrees on, all these nations agree on, is that their technology is nothing that humans have ever created. They are far more advanced in their technology. Most people, however, particularly in Africa and other less developed countries, know nothing about UFOs and aliens. In fact, I've been doing seminars in many parts of West Africa. I've also done seminars in Europe and in America. And I realized that, particularly in Africa, the majority of people, even educated people, know nothing about aliens. Those who know see them in films, in movies, and just consider them, dismiss them as, one of those things that, one of those, how do you call it, fictitious or fiction, science fiction. Okay, they dismiss them as science fiction. Other people, especially the Christians and particularly pastors, dismiss them as non-existent. Some people say, these are the white people trying to just throw dust into our eyes. But the few who believe that they exist say they are demons. That's all that the pastors who know about UFOs and aliens say they are demons. That's what they say. They are demons. But are they demons? You know, what most Africans see, actually, as I've said, in Africa, up to date, I've not heard of any reports of the sightings of UFOs or aliens by Africans. Of course, Africans see terrestrial and aquatic aliens like dwarfs and Mamiwata and so on and so forth. All right. But the kind of flying machines and their occupiers that are reported by the West is not yet reported in Africa. I've not yet heard it. All right. What most Africans see are aeroplanes. When Africans look up in the sky, they see, okay, they see the stars, they see the clouds, they see aeroplanes. Sometimes they see shooting stars, we call it the shooting stars, and they see witches. They are not yet very much aware of UFOs and aliens, right? Most pastors, as I've said, say they are, not most pastors don't even know. According to what I've discovered in my seminars with pastors, I ask the question, have you ever heard about UFOs? They say, what is that? The majority of Christians, especially in Africa, have you ever heard about UFOs? They say, what is that? And as I've said, those who have any idea about them only see them or saw them in movies and classify them as science fiction. But we want to discover. I want to take you on a journey. And I want to, first of all, let you know that I've been doing research on UFOs and aliens for the past 10 years. I have had the opportunity to study, to research, to read, to discover certain things that pertain to these UFOs and aliens that you will not be able to know unless you have time and the facilities to research. All right. It is like this. We have sound waves and audio waves and video waves. Okay? Audio waves and sound waves and light waves. Frequencies that are all over in the air. You sit in your house, you are in the farm, you're on a farm, you are wherever you are. You have no idea that there are sounds around you. Your ears cannot hear them. Sometimes dogs hear certain sounds at certain frequencies that human beings are not capable of hearing. Bats that fly in the sky, they also have the capacity to hear sound at very, very high frequencies that human ears cannot hear. So the fact that you're not hearing anything doesn't mean that there are no sounds. The fact that you're not seeing anything doesn't mean that there's nothing to see. Now, if you're standing somewhere or sitting somewhere, you may not see anything or hear anything until you have a machine that will be able to capture the sound waves. A machine such as a radio. You put the radio there and you begin to tune and you begin to catch a lot of sound waves that you otherwise cannot hear. They've been there all along, but you were not able to hear them because you didn't have the apparatus to capture them. In the same way, you put a television there, you put an antenna, and you begin to capture video waves. You begin to capture pictures from different places. You begin to see them. You couldn't have seen them if you didn't have a television or some equipment, some video equipment. That's the way it is. In Africa, we don't have the equipment to look into the sky to be able to discern these things. We can only see the things when they are on earth, when we see them in the sea, in water, or they are very close. So in Africa, we've not seen reports of UFOs and UAPs, but that doesn't mean they are not there. Now, those who conclude that there are demons, are they really demons? Because if you want to find out what a demon is, you would, of course, there's controversy even in the church, in theology. There is controversy about who demons really are. The Bible just tells us that there are demons. The Bible doesn't explain what demons are. But the Bible gives us some stories that if you follow and you want to research more, you'll be able to find out what demons really are. But demons are generally explained or defined as spirits, disincarnated spirits. Disincarnated spirit, that is spirits, beings that have been stripped, their bodies have been stripped off, and it's left with their spirits. Disincarnated, carnal, the flesh has been taken away, and it's left with only their spirit, only the spirit. I don't want to go into that. That would be another topic altogether concerning demons. So if you go into Bible studies and theology, most people would say that demons are disincarnated spirits. If there are disincarnated spirits, then UFOs and then aliens cannot be demons, because aliens come with their own bodies. They come with their own bodies. Their bodies may not be like human bodies, but they come with their own bodies. Demons don't have their own bodies. Demons have to necessarily enter into another body to operate, to operate among human beings. They have to possess. That's what we call possession. They have to possess a body. It can be an animal. It can be, a human being. It can even be plants and trees. Yeah. All right. So demons, aliens are not demons. What about, we say, fallen angels? There's controversy there too. Are they fallen angels? Well, we'll look at all these questions more deeply at the conclusion of this teaching. What aliens really are, what UFOs are in reality. Now, so are they real? Are they there? Are they fiction, science fictions? If they are not there, then what are all the governments of the advanced countries reporting? They are reporting it. Ever since the 1940s, we would look at the history of UFOs and aliens, and you would realize that since the 1940s, the advanced countries have been observing them and reporting. But you see, when you come to those of us who believe in the Bible, who are Christians, the Bible even says that in Genesis 1:14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years." So we see the stars up there. We just say they are stars. The scientists say they are burning gases. We also say meteorites. We see other planets, and we don't know what they are. Science are still how do you call it? Scientists are still trying to find out the different bodies that we see in the sky, which we just call stars, and what they are. The Bible says that God created them and put them there up in the sky to give us a separation between day and night, and also to serve as signs that will mark sacred times and days and years. For instance, the Magi, or what we simply call the wise men, at the birth of Jesus Christ, wise men came from the east. We normally say 3 wise men. No, the Bible doesn't say there were 3. They gave 3 types of gifts: gold, myrrh, and frankincense. So it was 3 gifts, but not 3 men. There could be more. There could have been more than 3, right? The Bible says they came from the east, and they came and reported to King Herod that they had seen the star of the Messiah, and that they had come all the way from the east to Jerusalem to find out where the Messiah was born. Now, they said we saw his star in the east. They saw a sign, like the Bible says, sacred signs in the sky. Sacred signs. So they saw a certain star that they were able to identify as communicating a message that the Messiah, the King of the Jews, Israel, that's what they thought, had been born. And they followed the star all the way from the east to Jerusalem. I think when they arrived in Jerusalem, it seems as if the star, they couldn't see it any longer. So they went to the only place, the natural place that a king will be born. They went to Herod's palace and said, "Where is the newborn king?" Herod didn't know what they were talking about, but he quickly called the scribes and Pharisees who knew the scriptures. And then they told him it would be in Bethlehem. The Messiah was supposed to be born in Bethlehem in Judea. So King Herod told them to go and look for the newborn baby, the newborn king. All right? And that if they found him, they should come back and report to him so that he also would go and worship him. The Bible says that's in Genesis, in Matthew chapter 1. Yeah, Matthew chapter 1. And you see the whole story in Matthew chapter 1 and 2. When they came out of the palace, they saw the star again. And they were so happy. They followed the star. The star led them to Bethlehem and stood over the house where the manger, where the how do you call it? The shed where Joseph and Mary were with their newborn baby Jesus. All right. So they saw a sign in the sky, and they were able to get specific information from that sign. We also read in Luke chapter 21 verse 11, when Jesus Christ was talking about 2 important events: the destruction of Jerusalem and the end times. Jesus was talking about the destruction of Jerusalem and the end times. He was talking about the signs that would let us know that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed and that his coming, the second coming, was near. And this is what Christ told them in Luke chapter 21 verse 11. There will be great earthquakes And there will be famines. Famine is hunger. And plagues, pandemics, in many lands. And there will be terrifying things and great miraculous signs from heaven. This is Jesus Christ explaining to the disciples the things, the events that were going to precede the destruction of Jerusalem and his second coming. He says that there will be great earthquakes, and there will be famines and plagues in many lands, and there will be terrifying things and great miraculous signs from heaven or in the sky. Now, we know, those of us who are into research know that God gave the Jews signs in the heavens and on earth that indicated that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed in 69 to 70 AD. God showed them signs. God actually was gracious. 4 years before the destruction of Jerusalem, God showed them many, many, many signs. And if you read the report of historians, the Jewish historian called Josephus, other historians as Hegesippus, Philo, who were not Christians, they were just historians who were there when Jerusalem was being destroyed, especially Josephus. He wasn't a Christian. He was just a Jewish historian, and the Romans absolutely had trust in him. So they actually took him to document their destruction of Jerusalem. So he put everything into writing and presented it to the Roman government. If you read the history, the history recorded by Josephus and Hegesippus and Philo and all these historians, you will see that the words of Jesus Christ, the prophecy of Jesus Christ concerning what was the signs that would happen, and the actual events that would take place during the destruction of Jerusalem, you realize that they came in what some people call ditto in details. Every single word that Jesus Christ said in Luke 17, 19, 21, Matthew 24, all these were fulfilled. All right. But the signs that God gave to Israel, the nation of Israel, before the destruction of Jerusalem, one of the signs was a comet, a star, a small star, a comet that had transformed itself into a sword, hanging over Jerusalem for a long period of, if I'm not mistaken, about 3 months. It was hanging there, a sword looking down on Jerusalem, a star, a comet that had transformed itself into a sword in the sky, looking down on Jerusalem. Some of the scribes, the wise scribes, interpreted that sign as a sign of doom. But because they didn't believe in Christ, they didn't believe his words, they couldn't link it to what Jesus Christ said, that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed. There were other signs on earth. I'll pass on those signs. But particularly, I'm talking about the signs in the heaven. There were other times when the whole population in Jerusalem witnessed armies on horses, chariots, on the clouds, surrounding Jerusalem in the air. That was another sign in the heavens. So from the year 65 or 66 up to 70, after the destruction of Jerusalem, God was showing them a lot of signs in the heavens, on earth, and in the sea. But they did not pay heed, did not recognize. Of course, the Christians who believe in Christ saw these signs. They ran out of Jerusalem before it was destroyed in 69, 70 AD. Okay, so could these UFOs and aliens be signs from heaven? Could they be God warning the earth, warning people about certain catastrophic events that are about to happen, just like before the catastrophe? If you read the history of the destruction of Jerusalem, you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked at the catastrophe that took place in the year 69, 70 AD. The signs were there. They didn't pay heed to the signs. Now we are seeing these UFOs and aliens and all that are being reported all over the world. Could they be signs? Could they actually be signs? God giving us signs from heaven? Now let us look at the historical occurrence of some of these things. Now, during the 1940s and throughout the 1950s, UFOs were often referred to as flying saucers. That's how people call them flying saucers, because the first time people saw those machines in the sky, they looked like saucers, like a plate, and another plate covering that plate. Okay, like two plates, a plate with its covering, a saucer. And they saw them flying in the sky with terrible speed and maneuvers, operating with certain maneuvers that were very strange to human beings. All right. Now, so these unidentified flying objects or unidentified aerial phenomena were seen, since the 1940s. The sightings increased every year, and all over Europe and the Americas. The governments were recording the sightings, the military were reporting, and they were being recorded in the classified documents of many of the governments of the world. Right. But scientists and many governments dismissed them. People saw them, reported them. Even military pilots had close encounters with flying objects that they described to the tower, to their centers. They described the way they were flying, the lights, the multi-lights. Sometimes they were red, blue, green, all kinds of lights. The maneuvers that they were operating in the sky, they described them. Sometimes civilian pilots also reported. People on the ground saw them in many times, many instances. They reported, but often they were dismissed. The governments of the world dismiss them. Scientists dismiss them, because anything a scientist cannot explain by by his tools, scientific tools, and scientific knowledge, they dismiss. So scientists dismiss them, and some scientists are still dismissing them up to date. But now, you can no longer dismiss them. You can no longer dismiss them because it's all out now. They are only trying to give different explanations, There could be balloons, there could be aircrafts, there could be what we call noctilucent clouds, nacreous clouds, astronomical objects such as meteors and other things. They are all kind of expressions. But today, all the military people, all the people who are researching these things, including Pentagon, the Pentagon has been forced to admit that between 5 to 20% of all those things observed since the 1940s cannot be explained. They've tried to hide the truth. They tried to explain away the phenomena. But they had to accept that between 5 to 20% of the sightings reported are still unexplained. They cannot explain them. Now, on April 14th, 1561, what we call the Nuremberg experience happened. There was an appearance of a large black triangular object. According to witnesses, there were also hundreds of spheres and cylinders of other odd-shaped objects that were flying erratically in the sky. But people saw the residents of Nuremberg saw a huge triangular object, black objects, floating in the sky. This was one of the earliest sightings. Of course, the sightings started as far as the 1940s, but this one in 1561, of course, 1561 is earlier than 1940. Okay, so 1561, some of the earliest sightings, April 14th, 1561. We call it the Nuremberg experience. The residents of Nuremberg saw these black objects. It had lights. It was huge, and it was flowing over the city in the sky. Then on January 25, 1875, the Denischen daily newspaper printed an article which John Martin, a local farmer, had reported, seeing a large, dark, circular object resembling a balloon flying at a wonderful speed. Martin, according to the newspaper, said it appeared to be about the size of a saucer, the first known use of the word saucer. Then we have the USA airship sightings. In April 1897, thousands of people in the USA reported seeing airships in various parts of the United States. Many signed affidavits. Certain people actually signed affidavits to say, yes, I saw this, it's true, I'm not lying. They signed affidavits to say that they saw those objects flying, and thousands of people in the United States saw them. We call them the USA airship sightings. That is in April 1879. Now we have the USS Supply Crew sightings. On February 28, 1904, there was a sighting by 3 crew members of the USS Supply about 300 miles west of San Francisco. And one of the 3 members of the crew was Lieutenant Frank Schofield, who later became Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Battle Fleet. Schofield wrote 3 bright, Schofield, Schofield or Schofield, however you want to pronounce it. He said they witnessed 3 bright, egg-shaped and circular objects flying in echelon that approached beneath the clouds, then changed course and soared above the clouds. So this was, these were military people who actually saw these objects and reported on 28th of February 1904. Now, as I said, the earliest known sightings were from the 15th century, 16th century. People had been observing these things, but they were not as frequent as they are today. There were about 1,305 sightings recorded by what we call the NARCAP, NARCAP, in 1926, 1916 and 1926, between these 10 years, there were about 1,305 sightings that were recorded. And over the years, these increased, and the governments of the governments of Europe, such as Belgium, France, United Kingdom, Germany, and Russia, even Russia, since a long time now, they actually make public their classified information, classified documents concerning UFOs. These classified documents, they included both civilian and military sightings of UFOs over several years. Military people flying military planes had encounters with the UFOs. Civilian planes had encounters with them. And as I go on, you get to know that even, today, in America, this year alone, there's about over 6,000 sightings of UFOs. If you go to the CNN, it's almost a daily report. There are daily reports about the sightings of UFOs in the United States, in other parts of the world. Okay. So, they are there. There's something out there. On August 5th of August 1926, there's what we call the Nicholas Roerich experience. Nicholas Roerich experience. This man, this Russian explorer, Nicholas Roerich, while he was traveling in the Humboldt Mountains in Tibet, in the Kokona region of Tibet, he reported seeing some shiny reflections in the sun, like a huge oval moving at great speed, crossing the camp where they are, and changing directions from south to southwest. They didn't know what it was. They just recorded what they saw. And in all these sightings, one thing that is common is that the airships operate maneuvers that are impossible to any human aircraft. The way they are able to zigzag in the air. Some reports stated that these objects they just bumped out of the sea and flew at straight right angle, straight up with the speed of lightning. No human aircraft, no military aircraft, no military machine can operate like that. Both in the sea, on the sea, and in the air. All these have been reported. So, as I was saying, Sweden, Belgium, the UK, Germany, Britain, they all reported. But meanwhile, the United Nations, United States of America continue to say, no, it's not true, it's not true. The United States continued to dismiss all these things until 2014, when the Senate actually asked the Pentagon to look into the matter of UFOs, because the reportings were all over the world. And you know what? There are people who dedicated themselves to research on UFOs, and they were going and contacting people who really saw them, who really saw these sightings, and some even who claimed that they had been abducted by some strange beings, operated upon, and brought back. Some of these people have been interviewed, they've been taken to the hospitals. The doctors saw some lacerations on their bodies. They saw some radiations on their bodies. But again, because there is no concrete proof, no one can put an alien there and say, look, this is an alien, we've seen him. Even though there are, again, speculations concerning Area 51 and Area 52 in America. You know, you can Google Area 51 and Area 52, and you'll get to know what they are about. These are secret areas in the United States where only a few people are permitted to visit. That's where the United States do a lot of their training, the development of new technology and other things. There are speculations, there are conspiracy theories, but there are also military officers who work in Area 52 who confessed before they died that they actually saw aliens working in Area 52, working with certain American soldiers, teaching them to create certain aircrafts that would have been possible for human understanding, would have been impossible for human understanding, right? So I know of 2 army generals, army officers who are working in Area 52, and it's up there. If you want to research, you can find them. I'm not creating this story myself. They confessed before they died. Journalists went and interviewed them, and they actually described the aliens. They saw the aliens. They worked with them in Area 52, right? So all these nations that I'm talking about released their classified information, classified documents concerning the sightings, concerning what they know about aliens, what they know about these flying objects. The United States continued to refuse to reject until 2014, when the Pentagon actually came out. And particularly last year, 2022, they came and reported to the Senate that, yes, there is something out there. For the first time, the Pentagon accepted that there's something out there that we don't understand. We don't know who they are. But we see them with aircrafts that cannot be created by human level of technology. Human level of wisdom cannot create those machines. And the way they maneuver in the sky, if humans were in those aircrafts, the humans would die. They cannot survive. The zigzagging the speed at which they go, the angles at which they fly, the sharp turns, it is not possible for any human being on earth to survive in those aircrafts. But we also know that there are humanoids or the other beings who look like human beings. They're not exactly like us, but they have their own bodies that are not like our bodies, who occupy these aircrafts. There have been reports of some of these aircrafts crashing, and people have gone to collect even some parts of the aircraft. And according to speculation, and according to what some army generals have confessed, the Area 51 has certain parts of UFOs, this airship used by the aliens. There are certain parts that they are trying to reverse engineer, trying to see if they can create, trying to find out what materials they are made of and if they can recreate them. Of course, as I've said, these are speculations, and already we have a religion that has come out of that. We call it UFOism. 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 People are already beginning to worship these UFOs. Some of you are sitting out there saying that they don't exist, you don't even know about them, but there's a religion already created. There are people worshiping UFOs. There are people preparing to be taken by UFOs to heaven. There are religious cults who say that the airships will come and pick them. So some of you are out there totally ignorant about them. Others are dismissing them because we don't have the time, and sometimes it's just that we are too lazy to research, or we don't have the means to research. But those of us that God has given the grace to have the knowledge, to have the skill of research, and also to have the means to research, what we can do is to do the research and bring them out to you. And what you can do is just to listen to us and judge by yourself and find out what we're saying, if it's true or not. Right. So the US has finally come, and the Pentagon has finally come to accept that there is something out there that we cannot explain. Why are all the governments of the world afraid? The governments of the world, powerful governments of the world, are afraid. Why? Because nobody knows where they are coming from. Nobody knows where those aliens are coming from. And the technology, the aircraft they are using, supersedes anything any government on earth, any scientist has ever created. So if these people are coming, why are they coming? And why are the sightings increasing? As I've said, in the US, more than 6,000 sightings. Almost every day people see them. And there are people who have their, telescopes and other gadgets who are always hunting for them. There are people who are continuously doing research about them. And the pressure that those people, their research findings, have put pressure on the governments of the world to come out with the truth concerning UFOs and aliens. And that's why today you have CNN reporting almost every week. There's a report about aliens, about sightings. We are not alone in our universe. We are not alone. Sometimes human beings, we are so, we are so ignorant that we think that this whole universe that is there, we are the only intelligent beings. No. If you look into the Bible talks about principalities and powers in the heavenly places. The word heavenly place just means in the sky, in the firmament. They are there. Are they those in the heavens there? Those principalities and powers and the spirits, spirit beings, are they demons? No. They are spirit beings. The Bible talks about spirit beings. Apart from angels, there are other spirit beings who do not come. Normally, they don't visit us. They are not like angels. Angels are messengers sent to human beings. But they don't come. Like, for instance, the seraphs or the seraphim don't come to human beings. The cherubim don't come. And the description of the airships that these aliens or extraterrestrial beings use, the description of the way they flash the speed of lightning, can only be compared to what we see in the Bible in Ezekiel chapter 1 and Ezekiel chapter 10. Ezekiel chapter 1 and chapter 10 describes the machine in which Yahweh came, the vision that Ezekiel saw. So first of all, it was like the clouds glowing with light, and then suddenly within the clouds, he saw this metallic objects. And then as it came closer, he saw beings. Each being had 4 faces. The face of a man, the face of a lion at the right side, the face of an ox at the left side, and the face of an eagle behind. So each cherub or cherubim, each cherub had 4 faces. Their feet were like the feet of an ox, and they had 4 wings. Each of them had 4 wings. In fact, in Revelations, we are told they had 6 wings. So some have 6 wings, some have 4 wings. And under them are wheels, huge wheels. And the wheels, there are eyes all around the wheels. And the cherubs, there are eyes on their wings, inside their wings. And on top of them was a throne that, Ezekiel described as a throne made of lapis lazuli. The lapis lazuli throne, on which was seated the Ancient of Days. Right? And according to the description of Ezekiel in chapter 1 and chapter 10, this machine on which Yahuwah rode, the speed at which it went was lightning speed. It just flashed. It could flash, left and right, up and down, in such a way that no human imagination would be able to catch. Right. So today, the people who are doing research on UFOs will simply describe the experience in Ezekiel chapter 1 and Ezekiel chapter 10 as a UFO, unidentified flying object, or unidentified aerial phenomena. Right. So we have a lot of them in the Old Testament. For instance, the chariot that came and took Elijah to the sky. The chariots of fire that appeared in the sky, and Elijah was, taken up and into that chariot, and they took him away. In today's language, you would say they are unidentified area phenomena. As I told you, before the destruction of Jerusalem, the people in Jerusalem saw chariots, horse riders surrounding Jerusalem. They saw them in the sky, and they were surrounding the city of Jerusalem. Right. So Today, it's no longer speculation. It is a reality. For those of you, especially in Africa, who know nothing about UFOs or UAPs and aliens, today it is no longer speculation. It's no longer conspiracy theory. The Pentagon has come out to say, yes, there is something out there we do not understand. We don't know what they are. But for people who study the Bible, people who critically study the Bible, and you want to take your time to study the Bible and compare what is being reported today, you will see that it's no new thing. It's no new thing at all. The Bible has been reporting these things over many years, many centuries. And if you go into other cultures like India, you know, the Indian ancient writings, they reported long time, many centuries ago, seeing, you know, objects like that flying in the sky with very detailed descriptions. In many cultures of the world, they experienced those things long time. It's just that our science rejects everything that they cannot prove in their very how do I say, what word should I use? It's primitive. All the scientific equipment that we have today are primitive. We cannot even see a spirit. No scientific machine can see a spirit. So they are primitive. In Africa, people see dwarfs. They talk about, and today there are a lot of people in the Western countries who think dwarfs, you know, these are all what? They are all fake, or they are all, untrue stories. They are stories made up. No. They are real. Spirits, like dwarfs, are teaching people to do things. In Africa, before Western medicine came, dwarfs were teaching people medicine. There is this philanthropist, an inventor in Ghana called Safo Kantanka. He calls himself Apostle Safo Kantanka, who has been able to manufacture, helicopter, MOWACs, military machines, cars. And he just went to, he's not a university graduate. He didn't go to university. He actually confesses and says that he receives tuition from dwarfs in the night. Dwarfs come and teach him. You will stay out there and say there are no dwarfs, they are not real. The mermaid, Manuata, they are not real. They are real. These are spirits that cannot be seen with the naked eye. But some people are able to see them because they have what it takes to see them. The things that we see are only maybe 1/3 of the things we can see. Even the Bible says that the things that we see are temporal, but the things that we can't see are permanent. They are there. Right? So, UFOs and aliens, they are real. UFOs refers to the aircraft in which the aliens ride, they fly. And they've been visiting the earth more and more. There are sightings, the sightings are increasing. And you know something? There's a report of one of these the UFOs, flying over the US nuclear, where we have the nuclear station, the nuclear arms, the nuclear weapons. And the moment that UFO hang over the nuclear facility, it demobilized the nuclear facility. Their technology is far beyond that of humanity. They can demobilize every weapon that we have. They can make our weapons useless. So the question the governments of the world are asking is that, are they coming in peace? What do they want from us? Where are they coming from? Who are they? That is what every nation is trying to research and find out. They're trying their best. Nobody knows yet. Of course, as I've said, these aliens, there are hundreds of people who claim that the aliens came to abduct them, came to take them away, take them into their machines, take them to some places, perform operations on their machines, on board their machines, and bring them back to Earth. So, for the pastors who do not have the means of researching, or they have the means but they are not capable of doing research, please don't dismiss these things, because as a pastor, you are a leader. If a church member goes and listens to watches CNN is talking about aliens and UFOs, and the church member comes and asks you, the pastor, what are UFOs? What are aliens? Don't just tell him, oh, don't mind them. Oh, forget about those, but they're not real. You'll not be an intelligent person. You'll not be a teacher. You'll not be somebody who can help your people. So every leader must be able to make an effort to find out what these things are. I'm continuing my research. I take my time to listen to the recordings of people who are talking about them, who have had encounters about them. I watch the testimony of Army generals in the US who have confessed meeting the UFOs, meeting the aliens face to face. I watch the confession of one other Army general that said they saw aircraft, foreign aircraft in Area 52, that the United States is trying to do reverse engineering. The report from Russia of crashed aircraft, the report from the UK, all the reports are coming in from all the land, Sweden, everywhere. So if all these things are happening and everybody's reporting on them, even the military people, governments are saying it, and you sit there and say they're not real, then excuse me, there's something wrong with you. Then the rapture might even take place before you know that it has taken place. What do I want to say? I simply want to say that what we are calling the UFOs and the aliens could be signs in the heavens, warning us like God warned the people of Jerusalem before the destruction of Jerusalem in 69 to 90 AD. God gave them ample warning. God is so kind. He gave them ample warning, but they did not pay heed. So also, I believe that the sightings that we are seeing, the phenomena that we are seeing in the sky and we can't explain, are warnings that God is giving to us, because he said there will be signs, sacred signs in the sky. That's why he created them. There are sacred signs in the sky, as I told in Genesis chapter 1 verse 14. And Jesus Christ said in Luke chapter 14 that there will be signs in the heaven, heavenly signs, signs from heaven before he comes. So while the governments of the world are researching this thing for military purposes, for looking at the danger they pose to human beings, and other people are looking at them as, just to, for their own curiosity. Other people have made religion out of them. What I can say as somebody, a researcher, and someone, who teaches the Bible as a missionary, as an apostle, is that this could be, I'm saying it could be, heavenly signs. If you couple that with the earthquakes that we have today, if you couple it with the pandemics, Jesus Christ in Luke 21, he said there'll be earthquakes The earthquakes are increasing. If you're not listening to the news, listen to news. When the Bible says watch and pray, watch doesn't mean go to all night and sit there and do rababa until the following day. No. What means be informed, be aware, watch and pray, watch for the signs, look out. He gave us some signs. If you are looking down, like many people are looking down today, the prophets and the pastors are preaching to Christians and asking them to look down, to grab wealth, money, cars, buildings. That's all that we're looking. But Jesus Christ said, look up, look up. He told the disciples, when you see these signs, flee, run out of Jerusalem. They were watching. The Christians in Jerusalem, before Jerusalem was destroyed, were watching. So when they saw the sign that Jesus Christ talked about, they said, these are the signs. Let us run out. And they ran out from Jerusalem and went and took refuge in a place called Petra. That's why they were saved. Jesus Christ says, watch out. When you see these signs, then you know my coming is near. Then you know I'm at the door. What I'm saying is that what is being reported by the world governments, by scientists, by research people, reported in the news all over the world about UFOs and aliens could be signs from heaven. God warning the earth, as He did before the destruction of Jerusalem, that catastrophe is coming. Catastrophe is coming. Jesus said, before He returns, these signs will come out. We are seeing the signs in the sea. We are seeing the signs in the sky. We are seeing the signs on earth. This is my position on the UFOs and the aliens. I'm not asking you to believe me. All I'm asking is begin to learn about them. Begin to be aware. Read yourself. Do research yourself. And come to your own conclusions about these things. God bless you. Hello. Welcome to this coaching program. This new coaching program on building a successful marriage. In my introductory video, I introduced myself, so I'm not going to introduce myself again, but my name is just Mark Darko. And I mentioned that marriage is not for everyone. Yes, marriage is not for everyone. I know you may be shocked by this statement because social constructs and societal norms push everyone into marriage. That's why we have a lot of trouble in marriage. Marriage is not for everyone. And in this video, I'm going to explain the categories of people who should not get married. And if you find yourself in that category and you're already married, then you need serious counseling. If you find yourself in any of these categories and you're contemplating marriage, I'll say stop and seek serious counseling before you get married. In the book of Matthew chapter 19 verse 12, the apostles asked Jesus Christ whether it was right for a man to divorce his wife. And Jesus told them, what do your scriptures say? And they said, Moses permitted us to write a divorce certificate and give it to the woman and let her go. And Jesus said, no. It's because of the hardness of your heart, your stiff-neckedness. That's why Moses permitted you. It was a permission because you were going to divorce anyway. You are stiff-necked. You are not going to obey the law of God anyway. That's why Moses permitted you to divorce your wives. But he told them that in the beginning, that was not the purpose of God. That was not the original intention of God. God created a male and female, and that the two will come together and they'll become one flesh. And Jesus said, what God has put together, let no man put asunder, or let no man separate. All right. So they said, oh, if that's the case, and we have to get stuck with a woman, stuck with a man for all your life, then it's not worth it. Then it's good that we don't get married. And then Jesus Christ said a very important thing. He said, what you're saying is, it's okay for a man not to get married, but not everyone can accept what you're saying. And he went on to say that there are 3 types of people. Jesus Christ used the word eunuch. Eunuch to describe celibacy. People who will not get married. There are 3 types of people who won't get married. 1, those who are born eunuchs. That means that they are born with a certain kind of disposition that they will not want to get married. Either they have some disability, or they have some problem with their physiognomy, or mental problem, or anything, or just their own personal disposition that will not allow them to get married. That is by birth. And he mentioned the second group as people who make themselves eunuchs. They stay celibate because of the work of God. This category applies to, or we find people like pastors, priests, monks, nuns, and all those people who do not want to get married because of ministry. And the third category of eunuchs, Jesus Christ says, are those who have been made eunuchs by other people. That means that they've been castrated. If you are castrated or you've been rendered, you've been incapacitated by people, by other human beings, then of course you cannot get married. Right. So these are the 3 categories of people who should not get married at all. And yet, in our society, we have the societal norms and culture and social constructs that push everyone into marriage. Everyone must get married. The moment you arrive at a certain age, they keep asking you, when are you going to get married? Why are you still not married? You are of age. Get married. Right? And it's like a stigma to have a certain age, to arrive like the age of 25, 30, 35, 40, and you are not married. It's a stigma in the society. They look down upon you. They begin to question your character. They begin to question the type of person that you are. All right. But we know that not everyone should get married. There are certain categories of people that should not get married. Jesus Christ stated 3 categories. But you see, we have certain conditions that people put themselves in, or certain mindsets that make it impossible to have a successful marriage. Marriage is not for you if you fall in the following categories that I'm going to mention. 1, if you do not have time for marriage, marriage is not for you. If you have certain other preoccupations that are more important than marriage, then marriage is not for you. We have people who are preoccupied with certain overarching visions. Their purpose of life, their life purpose is so weighty on them. It weighs on them so much that they are so consumed by it, and they have no time for any other thing else. Such people should not get married. Jesus Christ didn't get married just because of that. Of course, his marriage, if he had gotten married, it would have been a disaster because only his children would have claimed to be Christians. And he wouldn't have been able to achieve his purpose of coming to the earth. So he didn't get married because he had this overarching purpose of saving humanity, dying and saving humanity. Paul didn't get married, and as an apostle, he was able to go from one land to another, from one country to another, just kept going. There was no trailer behind him, no heavy trailer that he had to carry. As an apostle, I understand very well why Paul chose not to get married. Sometimes you get to a place where, if you have the calling of an apostle, you're going, you're planting churches, you are breaking fallow grounds, and just the Holy Spirit is leading you from place to place, and then you have to stop and come home because the problem in the family, that the children have problem, you have to take care of the education of the children, and you realize that you just wish that you were free, just to keep going from place to place. In that case, don't get married. Get married to your preoccupation. Get married to your vision. Get married to your business. Your business is more important to you than marriage. Get married to your business. Don't go and take someone's son or someone's daughter and just waste their lives. So, category number 1, if you do not have time for marriage, don't get married. Category number 2, if you can't share your material goods, the things that you possess, you don't have that desire to share with anyone, don't get married. There are some people who are so selfish that they can't even share a piece of pie. They can't share pizza with someone. They can't share anything with anybody. They are so selfish. Don't get married. Have it all for yourself. Because marriage has to do with love and sharing. Marriage has to do with love and sharing. Love is giving who I am, all that I am, and all that I have for the good, for the utmost good of somebody else. So in this case, in marriage, love in marriage is giving all that I am and all that I have for the good of my wife. That's what marriage is. If you're not ready to share, 1, your material goods. Number 2, your private space. When I talk about private space, I would develop it, further as we go on. There is a certain space around a human being that you don't allow someone to come in. For instance, if you were there and you found somebody, a stranger that you didn't know, you saw that stranger walking towards you, and they kept coming and coming closer and closer. There is a certain space that person will reach where you automatically begin to walk back. You begin to back up, back out. You begin to walk back because that person has entered your personal or your private space. We all have a private space where only intimate people that we have intimacy with, they can enter that space. All right? So if you're not ready to share your personal private space, don't get married. Also, if you're not ready to share your body, your soul, and your mind, which is your spirit, then don't get married. All right? You can keep it all to yourself. Just keep to yourself alone. Because marriage has to do with love and sharing. Love is giving. Again, love is giving all that you are and all that you have for the ultimate good of the one we love, of another person. All right? So if you are selfish and you can't share anything, you are not ready to share with anybody, please just take it all, have it all. Don't go and take somebody's daughter or somebody's son and just waste their time. Next, if you just want a woman to do your house chores for you, don't get married. What you need is not a wife, you need a house help, a maid, a houseboy. In my marriage counseling, I've done a lot of marriage counseling in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in America. And because of my studies in family life and law and gender studies, I've developed a tool, a marriage tool, where I'm able to generate, how do you call it, compatibility graphs and other things to find out if two people who want to get married are compatible or not. And I also have questionnaire to find out the compatibility. You fill the questionnaire, I'll plot them on a graph, and I'll let you know whether you are compatible or not. One of the first things I do to people who want to get married is I let them answer 5 questions. Tell me why you want to get married. And I can assure you that the answers are similar. Wherever you go, the answers are similar. Even though they are not always the same, they are similar. The men always go, yeah, first, I'm of age, so I need to get married. Number 2, I need someone to prepare food, to take care of the house, to do the household chores. So I need a wife. Number 3, I need children. That's how the men, always, those are the tendencies of men. Now the women are somewhat a bit different. Okay, I am of age, I need to get married. I want to have children, I need to get married. And then with women, the next point is I want someone to protect me. I want a man to protect me. And I want someone to take care of me, especially in Africa. I want someone to take care of me. Now listen, if you are a man and you are looking for a woman, someone to do your household chores, your household work, like cleaning, cooking, washing, ironing, you don't need a wife. You need a house help. You need a maid, right? So go and hire a maid, employ a maid, one maid and one houseboy to do those things for you. You don't need a wife, because a wife is more than that. If you're a woman and your purpose of wanting to get married is, oh, I want someone to take care of me, because you don't have a job, you have no training, and you just waiting for someone to be a father, to buy food for you. And I want someone to protect me from danger. Then what I'll say is, you don't need a husband. You need to go and look for a benevolent bodyguard, a wealthy, benevolent bodyguard who will provide you with those needs. Marriage is more than just a man to take care of you and protect you. Right. Next, if you don't like coitus, and by coitus is a professional word that we use, coitus just means sex. If you don't like to have sex, don't get married. I've had to counsel a couple long time ago in Kumasi, Ghana. The lady didn't want to have sex, but she got married. And the young man was having problems. They were having problems, and they were not, I was not the pastor of the church, but the pastor of the church was a friend. He had to call me in to counsel this couple. the lady didn't want to have sex. I sat down with them separately, and then I listened to them. The lady felt that sex was nasty, it was dirty for her. Why did you go to have sex? Why did you want to get married? Why did you get married? I had to take my time, and a long time with this couple, for them to understand what marriage really is, and especially for the woman to understand that if you didn't want to have sex, if you don't like sex, then don't get married. If you have all kinds of ideas about sex, some people think that sex is sin. If sex is sin, you need counseling. If you think sex is dirty, you need counseling, right? Because you go with that attitude, you're just going to disturb a young man for nothing, right? So if you don't like coitus, don't get married. Or you need to get counseling before you get married. Now, if all that you need is coitus, is sex, then go and buy a sex machine. Today we have sex machines. Because a wife or a husband is not a sex machine. He's not there just for sex. She's not there just for sex. If you want to get married to a woman just because of sex, you don't need a wife. You need a sex machine. Go and buy a good sex machine. You can have as much sex as you want, because a spouse, a wife or a husband is not a sex machine. Right? Now, if you are contemplating to get married and you are in any of these categories, I'll say stop and seek counseling. Seek counseling. You see, good marriages, successful marriages don't just happen. They are built. That's why the title of this series is Building a Successful Marriage. Marriages don't just happen. Good marriages don't just happen. Some people think that I want a good man to get married to him. I want a good woman. So they are looking, let me go to a church where I can find a good Christian, and by good Christian they mean somebody who will be able to satisfy all their desires because they are Christians, because they will not fight with them. They'll say yes to whatever they want. No. Marriage has to be built. You have to construct. If you want a good marriage, you have to construct it the way we construct a building. Good and successful marriages don't just happen. They are made. There is the role of God in marriage or in a good marriage, but there's also the role of the couple. It's like a flower. You can grow a flower, but before the flower will grow, you need to keep watering it. And when it begins to grow, you need to trim it for it to look beautiful. Right? So, successful marriages are constructed. Marriage is also learned, especially when we talk of Christian marriage. Christian marriage is learned. Unfortunately, we are not taught marriage, because most of the people who are supposed to be teaching us marriage don't have good marriages themselves. Many men of God, many pastors and women of God are divorced. They are living in fornication. They can't give you the right counsel of marriage. Either they don't have successful marriages, they don't know how to build a successful marriage themselves, so you can't give what you don't have. If the pastor himself doesn't have a successful marriage, if the pastor himself does not live at peace with the wife, if the pastor himself is cheating the wife, or the female pastor is cheating on the husband, how can he teach another person to build a successful marriage? All right, so the people who are supposed to counsel us, to give us good counseling, most of them also are having problems. Because they themselves were not taught, they were not counseled. So today, a lot of people go into marriage without counseling because they just meet at the bus stop. They meet at the the nightclub. They meet on the streets, and then the first thing is they begin to have sex, and then later on, they decide to go and get married. Now, if that's the way you build your marriage, don't expect that marriage to succeed. Don't expect to have a good marriage. You're just having a sex partner. That is not marriage. For true marriage to occur, there need to be knowledge of one another. You need to know one another. And know that the person that I want to get married to really is someone that should get married. Someone that needs a wife. Not a sex machine. Not a maid. Not, someone just to bear the children for him, be a child, a child bearer, or to someone to impregnate and give a child for them. I want to get married because I want children. Okay. Today we have artificial insemination, where you can, or ex vitro insemination, where you can, go and buy a sperm and buy an egg, and you can have a child. But if you want to get married, marriage is not just for children. It's not just for giving birth to children. Giving birth to children is part of it, but marriage is not just for giving birth. In our next video, I'm going to give the godly reasons for marriage. I'm going to give you 5 or 6 godly reasons for marriage. But today, all that I'm trying to do is to let you know who should not get married. All these categories that I've mentioned are in marriage. Maybe you find yourself in this category and you're already married. You don't like sex, but you have a husband. You don't like sex, but you have a wife. You are selfish. You can't share anything, but you have a wife. You have a husband. You cannot share your space. You cannot let someone come close to you, and yet you are married. There was a lady that I was were praying for in New Jersey. She was past 35 years, going to 40, and she was living a kind of chaste life. She wasn't having boyfriends up and down, and we're all praying for her. She was, a good church member, and every pastor really wanted her to get married. I went to visit this lady, and she had a 2-bedroom flat, 2-bedroom apartment. Well furnished, everything was in order. And this lady, if you took a chair cover or one of the couches, the covering that she hung on the couches, you displace one, put one somewhere, she'll rebuke you. Take it and put it exactly as it was. She didn't want anything in the living room to be displaced. She wanted to keep everything exactly as she wanted them. And I said, my dear, you have not created space for a husband. He said, how is that? I'm ready. Can't you see that the house is ready? I've got everything ready. If I have a husband today, if I get someone and we get married today, the person doesn't need to go and rent a house. Already have a house, well furnished, everything is here. I said, I know. Your house is well furnished. But it's difficult for you to get a man who will come and fit into your rigorous, rigorous structures in your house. Men are not like women. Many men are not like women. Some men are like women, but many men are not like women. And you will not get a man that would be so meticulous as not to display something in the living room. If you be angry with a little displacement, the angle of the computer has shifted a bit. The angle of the TV has shifted a bit. The man took maybe a napkin and put it somewhere where it should not be, and you get angry. Then don't get married. Just keep your neat, beautiful home, because it will be hard for you to find a man who will fit into your bubble, who will fit into your structure. Someone who wants to get married must be ready to adjust. I'm talking about adjustment. You must adjust, because the person that you're going to get married is not you. That person has been given birth to in a different home, brought up by different parents, has a different culture. And when I say culture, I'm talking about, language. I'm talking about education. I'm talking about socialization. I'm talking about everything from food, from even dances and rituals, rites of passage, and everything that forms the environment within which that person was born and raised. You see, so you were raised in a different environment. That person is also raised in a different environment. You are not the same. So if you are a man and you are looking for a woman who will come and fit in your rigorous structure, you will not find any. Unless you get, even your twin sister cannot fit into your structure, because she has a different mindset. You may be twins, but your mindset and her mindset might not be the same. Let alone two people who were brought up in different places. Okay? So if you say, this is what I want, and that's what the lady must do, this is what I want, and that's what the man must do, then I'm afraid, don't get married. You'll not get anyone like that. Again, there are people who think like that. There are people who behave like that, who are already married. And that's why you have all the problems in marriage. All the problems. As a marriage counselor, as I've told you, I've done marriage counseling in 4 continents. The problems are the same. Incompatibility, they're not compatible. They shouldn't have gotten marriage in the first place. Compatibility is very important. The Bible says in the book of, I think it's in Amos, can 2 people work together unless they agree? That is compatibility. I'll come to that. Compatibility. Are you compatible with the person you want to get married to? Take time. Slow down. And find out if you are compatible. Again, I have a tool, a scientific tool, with which I can help you to find out if that person is compatible or not. If you contact me, I will let you have, I'll just send you the questionnaire, both to you and the person you want to get married to. I'll send it to you by mail or by email. And then 2 of you will fill the forms independently, send it back to me. I'll plot it on a graph. And if you see the graph lines going this way, diverging, then you know you're not compatible. But if you see them going the same way, then you know that you're compatible. Also, the graph will show you at which points you are not compatible. If you are ready to work out those parts, you are ready to work out the point of disagreement, then of course, you can get married. But you see, who is teaching our youth? Who is counseling our youth? Who is guiding our youth? Even the traditional marriage counseling, the traditional pastors who counsel people before they get married, the counseling is very, very limited. Because the pastors themselves don't know. They don't have the knowledge of what goes into marriage. One of the most important things that every couple, every married couple people who are already married and people who are contemplating marriage should understand is what we call conflict management and resolution. There's something we call conflict potential. Conflict potential. And before two people get married, before a man and a woman get married, we must find out what are the possible or what are the conflict potentials. What are the things that are likely to cause conflict, to bring conflict in their relationship? The moment we identify these things, then we begin to work on them one by one. Again, in some years ago in New Jersey, there was a couple, a young man and a young woman who I counseled, premarital counseling. And I told them that I was going to give them 72 weeks of counseling. After that counseling, either they will separate or they'll get married, all depending on what happens during the counseling. So we began to talk, we're meeting, every Saturday we're meeting. At the end of the 72 weeks, 72 hours of counseling, not weeks, 72 hours of counseling, they realized that it's better we don't get married. Because since we started, the conflict has not diminished. Even though I taught them conflict theory and the best ways to resolve conflict. Anytime they came, I'll ask them, so last week, what conflicts occurred between you? And what was the cause of the conflict? The guy will say what he thinks was the source of the conflict. The lady will say what she thinks. And then we'll try to resolve the conflict with the conflict theory that I taught them. They knew the conflict language and they knew the language of resolution and other things. All right. But I was expecting that the conflict would reduce. But I realized that none of them was ready to budge. Everybody wanted to insist on their rights. Everybody wanted to continue to live in their bubble. The woman expected the man to come all the way into her bubble. The woman, the man also expected the woman to come all the way into his bubble. It will not work. Maybe you are not married and you think that, or you're looking for a woman who will do everything that you want. You are living in a dreamland. Marriage doesn't happen that way. Even if you get married, it will not be a successful, happy marriage. You may be already married and you're sitting there, especially the men. You're looking for the woman to obey. That is to say, obey everything that you say. It must be your way or nothing. No. That woman that you got married to doesn't cease to have a personality. We call something personality. Her personality doesn't disappear. A woman's personality doesn't disappear when you get married to a man. Neither does a man's personality disappear when she gets married to a woman. Right? So the two need, you need to discover each other's personality and find out your compatibility curve to know whether you're compatible, whether you should get married or not. But again, the problem we have is that we're in a hurry to have sex. The youth don't have time. That's why the divorce ratio is high. And women are crying, especially women are crying. Women are actually suffering. Here in the United States, it's a real problem. In Africa, it's worse. Women go through all kinds of problems. Not just women, men too go through all kinds of problems because they never learned. Nobody taught them what marriage really is. Nobody taught them what to expect. What are your expectations? One other thing I do to people before they get married is I ask you to write down your expectations. What do you expect from your future husband? What do you expect from your future wife? I normally ask them to write 10 expectations. 10 things that you expect from your future husband, and 10 things you expect from your future wife. I take the list and I look through and I see a lot of unreasonable expectations. What you're expecting from your future husband is not reasonable, but they don't know it's not reasonable. Look, I'm a man, and I've been married for, I'm in my 36th year of marriage. Like I told you in my introduction, I have 3 children. They are all adults. They are all independent now, and I believe, and I can tell you that I have a successful marriage. But it didn't just occur. It had to be worked out. It had to be built. God has blessed me with a successful, happy marriage. But it had to take working and working and working, mountains and valleys, tears and laughter to build that successful marriage. That's why I can counsel you. Apart from, again, my studies in law, in gender, and in family studies, and in theology, and in Bible studies, and counseling, all these things put together, my experience in marriage gives me that confidence to help you, to coach you. If your intention is to have a happy marriage, your intention to have a successful marriage, I will invite you not to miss any of my series on building a successful marriage. What did I say today? Today I've said that marriage is not for everyone. Don't let your parents push you into marriage. Don't let the society push you into marriage when you know that marriage is not for you. I know many people will get shocked because all that we know is that everyone should get married. No. Jesus Christ himself in Matthew chapter 19 verse 12 says, not everyone is going to get married. Besides, the ratio of men to women today is 98 to 100. 100 men to 98 women. So there are 2% of the population of the world. 2% of the population of women will not get husbands. They will not get husbands. Even if they wanted to marry, they're not going to get husbands. So those who are not supposed to be married, stay out of marriage. And let the women who, are supposed to be married, let them marry. Okay? So it's important. Let's understand again. Even if all women wanted to get married, if all women were ready to be married, 2% of 8 billion, that's a lot. 2% of 8 billion, that's a lot of women will not get husbands. You not get men. Because our society is a monogamous society. Means that just one partner. Just one partner. Christianity has imposed, one wife, one man, one wife. Muslims, okay, they can marry a lot. The traditional people can marry a lot. Maybe they can balance the equation. But there are women, a lot of women in the churches crying for husbands, praying and fasting, and they are doing all-night meetings and fasting for husbands, and they are just not there. All right? But let us realize that not everyone should get married. If you fall in any of the categories that I mentioned, one, you cannot share anything, you are selfish, you cannot give, you don't want people close to, people coming into your personal space, your private space. You cannot share your body. You cannot share your mind, your thoughts. You cannot share your emotions with somebody else. Marriage is not for you. If you can't share your wealth, if you can't give, marriage is not for you. Don't go and take somebody's son or somebody's daughter and torture them. If you don't like sex, marriage is not for you. Go and become a monk or a nun, right? If sex is the only reason that you want to get married, no, you don't need to get married. Go and buy a sex machine. If you need marriage, you need to get a wife. You need to get married just for that woman to do your house chores. You don't need a wife. You need a housemaid or a houseboy. Right? If you are a woman and you need marriage just because of protection, I have to have a man to protect me, you need a bodyguard. Right? You don't need a husband. So listen to this tape and ask yourself, am I in any of these categories? Am I in any of these categories? If you find yourself in any of these categories, if you are not yet married, you need to stop and seek counseling before you get married. If you are already married and you find yourself that you are in any of such categories, you already realize that there's conflict. There's too much conflict in your home. There's no peace. You want to run out of the marriage. You also need counseling. You need a learned person. Somebody who has a successful marriage themselves. They are living happily with their wives and children. Two, somebody who has knowledge, not just of the Bible. He has knowledge about social issues. He has knowledge about, relationship. He has knowledge about basic gender and family relationships. All right? He has knowledge about, social power relations. They will be able to help you. Right? So keep watching this video. In my next video, I'm going to give you the reasons that God instituted marriage. I'm going to give you important purposes of marriage. What's God's purpose of marriage? Today, what I did is to let you know who marriage is not for. What marriage is not for. In my next video, I'll let you know what marriage is for. Now, if you love what you hear, I want to ask you, subscribe to my video, subscribe to this channel, pass it on to somebody else,